History is often measured in years, decades, or even centuries of struggle. But what if a nation's entire war lasted less than an hour? On August 27, 1896, the British Empire and the Sultanate of Zanzibar engaged in a conflict that would go down as the shortest war in recorded history. Zanzibar, a small but wealthy island hub for trade and spices, found itself caught in the middle of a global power struggle. By the late 19th century, European powers were carving up the African continent. Britain had established Zanzibar as a protectorate. Under the 1890 treaty, the British controlled the succession of the Sultanate, ensuring their trade interests and the abolition of slavery. For years, Sultan Hamad bin Thawani ruled in cooperation with London. But on August 25, 1896, everything changed. Hamad died suddenly and suspiciously. Many whispered of poison, and all eyes turned toward his ambitious nephew. Khalid bin Bargash did not wait for British approval. Within hours, he had occupied the palace and declared himself the new sultan. To the British, this was an act of rebellion. They had another candidate in mind, one who would continue the path toward ending the slave trade. An ultimatum was issued. Khalid and his forces had until 9 a.m. on August 27th to leave the palace and surrender. Khalid believed the British were bluffing. He replied, "We have no intention of hauling down our flag, and we do not believe you would open fire on us." The British response was chillingly brief. "We do not want to open fire, but unless you do as you are told, we shall certainly do so." 5 powerful vessels, including the HMS St. George and HMS Philomel, turned their massive 6-inch guns toward the wooden palace. Inside the palace, Khalid's forces prepared for a siege. They had artillery, but it was largely obsolete against the modern Royal Navy. At exactly 9 a.m., the ultimatum expired. Rear Admiral Rawson gave the order. The bombardment began. The first shells tore through the palace's wooden structure. It wasn't a battle, it was a demolition. By 9:02 a.m., just 2 minutes in, Khalid realized the gravity of his mistake. He abandoned his followers and fled. On the water, the Sultan's outdated yacht, the Glasgow, attempted to return fire. It was swiftly sent to the bottom of the harbour. The high-explosive shells turned the palace into an inferno. The defenders had nowhere to hide. At 9:40 a.m., the firing stopped. The Sultan's flag was gone. The war was over. It had lasted just 38 minutes. The casualties were staggering for such a brief encounter. Over 500 Zanzibaris were killed or wounded. The British suffered only one injury. Khalid found refuge in the German consulate. Despite British demands for his extradition, he was eventually spirited away to German East Africa. By the afternoon, the British had installed their preferred candidate, Sultan Hamud, effectively turning Zanzibar into a puppet state. Zanzibar's sovereignty had been shattered in less time than a lunch break. British control would remain absolute for decades to come. But there was a silver lining. One of the first acts of the new government was the final, forced abolition of slavery on the island. The shortest war sent a loud message across the continent. Resistance against the industrial might of Europe was often a brief and tragic endeavour. Today, Zanzibar is a peaceful paradise, but the scars and stories of 1896 remain part of its complex heritage. It serves as a stark reminder of how quickly the world can change when global powers collide with local defiance. The Anglo Zanzibar War remains the record holder, a 38-minute flash of fire that changed a nation's destiny forever. At 2 a.m., the first shell. 9:02, the self-proclaimed Sultan is gone. The speed of the collapse was unprecedented. By 9:40, the silence returned to the harbour, broken only by the crackle of the palace flames. The world watched in awe. Other colonial powers took note of Britain's clinical efficiency in enforcing its will. The telegraph lines buzzed. The shortest war was the biggest news of the week, a testament to the new age of instant communication. We often look at history in long stretches, but sometimes the most profound changes happen in the blink of an eye. 38 minutes, a blip in time but a milestone in history. This documentary was brought to you to explore the fascinating corners of our shared past. History is full of surprises. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the shortest war in history, don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating facts and historical mysteries. Thanks for watching.